Welcome to the Comfortable in Chaos Podcast. Strangle your demons and let's go.
Y'all need Jesus!
Oh, keep your eyes on the road, your hands upon the wheel. Keep your eyes on the road, your hands upon the wheel. Welcome to the Comfortable in Chaos Podcast. I am your host, Eric Hellberg, and you know we're like Einstein over here, man. We have no special talents, we're just passionately curious about all things pertaining to men. How in the hell did we get here? And where is it that we want to go? That's a kick-ass introduction, man, isn't it? So let's get it. All right, man. So how do we keep our tempo up for this upcoming week? Damn it. We're off to a good start. Maybe I should have, instead of singing The Doors and Jim Morrison. You know he was a psychopath, right? I didn't think so. But I know he had an IQ of above 150 that puts him in elite status. And you can't be a psychopath unless you're very smart. But I got to talking to this dude, and he said, yeah, if he didn't like women that were coming on to him, he'd put a knife to their neck. All right, he went to psychopath mode. We get it. That's not the point of the show. The point is, I kind of like their music. I think it's probably better if you're high. And maybe I should have just started this episode with Ozzy Osbourne's Crazy Train, right? Because we are all going off the rails on this crazy train. And getting back to being high in the doors, you kind of need an altered state to live in today's world. I mean, what the hell did Thomas Paine even say? When the government fears the people, that is liberty. When people fear the government, it is tyranny. And we are living in a tyranny right now, men. You think you're effectual in your life? Well, only if you keep in your own space. You start skimming a few stones across the pond and you break up that pristine stillness, create a few ripples that others latch onto, your ass is going to be called to be quiet. Trust me. I'm going to tell you this. I did a reel on Facebook just the other day, and it concerned some people out of a very specific geographic locale. Did you know within 30 minutes I received 2 calls, and maybe they were afraid that I would return their calls, and they were answered by males. And I have the ability to trace calls. At least the physical address associated with the numbers. And after I answered them and we both sat in stymied silence because they wouldn't respond, I traced those calls. And they went back to P.O. Box addresses. I wonder who they were. Hey, I'm easy to find. Come get me. We'll make it like Rambo in that godforsaken town where he went into the cave and they sent an inept National Guard to surround him. My God. A whole other story. But why don't we just do this? Why don't we just go around the horn and let's talk about some of the ludicrous stuff we're contending with each day and some things that have been on my mind. And my guess is they've probably been on your mind. Have you noticed that every time Trump has a rally, he has literally thousands of people in attendance, shouting, cheering for him. And oftentimes you will hear, USA, 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 and all the other assorted MAGA stuff, right? Maybe that's why Joe's brought in all these illegal immigrants. He needs to pay people. He's already paid them to come across. But then they get another generous stipend, probably a Danish and a cup of coffee to attend his rallies. No one's coming. And after he mumbles through a few things, they usher him off. They point him in the right direction. They get his elbow. They carry him off. But have you noticed, not just for old Joe, have you ever seen in the last 5 years, we probably even can go back further than that, at anyone's Democratic rally, do they ever chant USA, USA? So whose countries are they cheering for? Who do they think they're attempting to get an elected official chosen to represent? Who is it that they're chanting for in their convoluted minds? Because there was an old dude born in New York who became prominent in California. I used to love to listen to him, Dr. Michael Savage. He probably got tired of fighting the system. And you know what? He was older too. But he's so right. He used to say that liberalism is a mental disorder. And I'm in agreement. It's kind of like two sharks end up on the beach. They've washed ashore. They have lost their way. And I don't know, an old surfer, maybe he needed to hit something on his board, so he left a hammer. One shark's a hammerhead, the other, let's just say, is a black tip. But all of a sudden, that black tip shark, I don't know, he found some duct tape floating on the ocean. You know, littering's a bad problem. And maybe he taped that hammer onto his head. Now he's looking at the hammerhead. He has a hammer on his head. Does this make him a trans shark? We're getting really wacky, aren't we, guys? That's how ludicrous and stupid this stuff really is. All right, here we go. You know, back in the day, President Bush, old W, he said, I killed Saddam. Okay, well, he got Saddam. Said it was mission complete after his good old Texas National Guard training. And that's why Papa Bush had him avoid Vietnam, because Papa Bush had been in Vietnam. Oh, yeah, he had been there. Not as a soldier, but representing the CIA front Zapata offshore. And, of course, he had to cut some deals with Lolo Soetoro there. A major in the Indonesian Armed Forces, who was also a seismographer, American trained. It turned out to be Barry Soetoro's stepfather, later known as President Barack or Barry Hussein Obama. So he knew how bad Vietnam was. You better believe it, because Lolo was in charge of killing hundreds of thousands of people in the Indonesian uprisings. But that's a whole different story. So he said, W, no, sir. Not my young man who was part of Skull and Bones like me at Yale. You're not going off to war, but you're going to help start some. So he invaded Iraq, second time, do some unfinished business. Flew on top of that carrier. Of course, he was in the co-pilot seat. And said, mission complete. But forget about that extremist uprising that we then had to fight for another 10 years strongly in Iraq. That's when we really started getting decimated. But he killed Saddam. All right, who's someone else, another president? Well, let me just say Trump killed Soleimani. That was a just and righteous kill. He showed Iran something. Unabashedly, unafraid. And did you notice they didn't do a damn thing about it? That's interesting, isn't it? Sounds like there was some law and order starting to be pecked out. Something else happened. Okay. Who did Barry say he killed? Oh, he killed bin Laden. Yep. Election was coming up again. And Benghazi was a fiasco. So we finally had to decide to kill Osama bin Laden. The crazy thing was the ISI is all pervasive. They know everything about Pakistan, especially in Abbottabad, which is their equivalent of our West Point. And it is a community of upwardly mobile Pakistanis, the elite. It's actually a vacation site. So that walled compound with 20-foot walls whereby no one came in or out, they were self-sufficient, everything was delivered. No one ever asked any questions or wondered who the hell was in there or how did this place come to be. So he was just isolated and hidden, and not a soul in the world knew about him. Really, our Muslim sympathizer President Barry made a phone call. He said, look, I need this. He's not of any use to you anymore. You've got the appropriate cells and infrastructure in place. Dude just sitting back in there watching old VHS tapes. His tomatoes are going rotten on the vine. Can we just get him? So they agreed. So he got bin Laden. Okay, we got those three. Who did Hillary get? Hillary got a good kill too. And she wasn't president. She got Epstein killed, right? Oh yeah, Epstein went down, just like a myriad of other folks who have ever crossed the Clintons. So there's one little aspect, and let's have a little fun with it. So how about this? Let's just get our blood boiling, maybe curdling, and let's have righteous anger, right? Anger is not a sin as long as it is righteous anger. Jesus was angry. We have a right to feel angry. It's what we do with that emotion and feeling after it comes upon us. So let's begin with this then. We've mentioned a few presidents. We have an election coming up. So imagine, if you will, an entire country of people so ignorant that the people willfully give billions of dollars in order to elect rich criminals to rule over their lives and steal their money, but still believe they are free. Is that us? Is that us, men? Maybe we ought to start trying to do something about it. Is money the root of all evil? Eye of a needle, rich man, camel. It's talked about in the Bible. Okay. Rich man couldn't follow Christ. He had too many affairs of this world to consider. Needed to get things in order before he could just stop, drop, and roll and move forward. How about this one? If you are a rich man who makes money in a dishonorable way, i.e. maybe Wall Street, scamming, thieving, cheating, did you know a woman that gets to partake in that lifestyle will forgive that malfeasance? How about if you were a poor man who makes a little bit of money, albeit in an honorable way? Women will not forgive that. The world's become so twisted that a woman will forgive you for being evil, but not for being powerless. That's food for thought. Well, how about this one? We hear about this stuff they call toxic masculinity. It's a blight on society, isn't it? I tell you what, but upwards of 45%, approaching 50% now of all boys are raised by single moms. And almost 80% of teachers in America are female. So is toxic masculinity the problem, man? Or are they just talking shit? Maybe the problem is a lack of masculinity, and it needs to trickle down upon these fools espousing it. That's one good way to start, I believe. And since we were talking about presidents, let's go back to good old Barry. I mean, we know that old Joe's simply his protege, and I don't think anyone gave out more presidential awards of freedom, if that is the proper name. I mean, think about it as the civilian equivalent of the Congressional Medal of Honor. It's almost sacrilege to say. But I tell you what, he gave one to good old Tom Hanks. Oh, he loves Tom now. Oh, he had to give one to Oprah. Oprah helped get him into office. We remember that day in Chicago. Ellen DeGeneres, she certainly needed one. Medal of Freedom. She has freed many a people. Billy Bob Clinton, of course. Yeah, he had to collaborate with one of his predecessors. And if you've listened to some of my recent episodes, you realize what a champion of freedom Bill Clinton actually was. He loved those women, I tell you. Everyone's still fighting over Stormy Daniels, who can't remember at this point. She says she wasn't drugged. She says she wasn't inebriated. But now she says she has blacked out or simply cannot remember the interlude that purportedly happened with President Trump that she so vividly recalled back in 2016. And now Mr. Avenatti, who was her counsel at that time, has now said he's willing to testify on President Trump's behalf. Was this also concocted bullshit? I mean, going back to William Jefferson Clinton, what happened to Paula Jones? $850K. That was in the 90s. That's big money. Oh, yeah. Hey, slimy old Joe. Whatever happened to the allegations of rape? We're not even talking consensual stuff, but rape with Tara Reid. We never heard another thing about that lady. I wonder if she's even still alive. So, yeah, Barry gave it to Tom. Barry gave it to Oprah. Excuse me, Barry gave it to Ellen. Barry gave it to Bill. And he also gave it to another Bill. Bill Gates. Now, what I'm going to ask is, were these simply diehard Americans wanting the betterment of everyone in America? Or could we just call that esteemed list maybe the Epstein Island Loyalty Rewards Program? I'll hand you out a medal. Wink, wink. Nod, nod. It's just all in good fun, right, gang? So until next time on the Comfortable in Chaos podcast, Manic Monday is concluded, and let's get into Titillating Tuesday. Bye-bye.
Until next time, like and subscribe to the Comfortable in Chaos podcast.